Okay, this house here is at 223 West Gustavus Avenue. And it started out, was built in 1924, fall of 24, and the spring of 1925. And the driveway was right here. And there's a little milk house in the back. There's a garage back there now, but that's where the milk house was. My mother bottled the milk, and in the little milk house back here. And this is the house here where I was born in 1926, April 21st, 1926. And this is where I was born in the hospital, of course, but this is the house at 223 West Gustavus. And then my dad built a barn, a cow barn, which we milked all the way up from 10 to 12, 15 cows. Our barn was located just east of the chicken coop that's back here. The chicken coop was built because we had some chickens, and then we got rid of the chickens, and then we had so many cows that were calving, so we had the calves in this little barn here. So we call that the calf barn. And then we had built a barn, and then right beside it, we built a a granary. We had 10 to 12 milk cows all the time, and they were Guernsey cows with a lot of cream on it, glass bottles with a lot of cream. And the neighbor farmer up here, up top of the hill up here, had his name was Erskog, and they had Holstein cows, and the cream was up like this here. And our Guernsey cows, the cream was way down like this here. So that people would like what milk we didn't deliver to the houses, we delivered to the grocery store, Star Grocery, put it in there. Okay, the people that live here now, his name is Roy Lemke, and they have put a driveway on this side of the house now with a double garage. We had a garage that was facing west, same place where the garage is here, but it was around the edge of the house facing east. It was a one-car garage, so that's where we kept the garage. And then we had the milk truck, a panel milk truck, down in the milk house. Next to our house here was an old house, was built in probably the 1900s, where my grandparents lived. And they already had 14 children when they moved to Fergus Falls from Dawson, Minnesota. And they already had 14 kids, and they had 2 more kids when they got here. And then they lost the farm in 1918, the small farm. And so they moved into different places. So they rented this small house here, an older home here, right here next door here. And had some land, and some of the kids were there, and then they lived here for must have been 4 or 5 years next door to my folks. So lived right next door to my folks. So it was kind of interesting. When I was a little kid growing up, I'd go and Grandma would make some fresh cookies, and I'd go and rap at the door, and Grandpa would come to the door sometimes and say, "What do you want?" I says, "I wanted to see Grandma," because I could smell she was baking from fresh chocolate chip cookies. Now this was a gravel street for many years right here in front of us here, and but now it's paved and paved gutters and stuff, so it's real up-to-date street here now. All right, I graduated from high school in 1944 from Fergus Falls High School, and we couldn't deliver any more raw milk, so I came down to the creamery here and asked them if I could. This was the site of the Fergus Falls Co-op Creamery, and so I came down here to find out if I could get a job, and they said, "Yes, we'd like to have you here." And so I was taking the milk from our farm here anyway in the mornings. And so I got a job working down here washing milk bottles and helping out wherever I could. And then I went in the service in '44. So after the service, he said, when I went in the service, and he said, when you get out of the service now, of the military, you come here because I'd like to get you on the milk route. So I did. I came back, and he got me on the milk route shortly after. I was inside for a couple weeks until they ordered a brand new milk truck, and they got me, and they broke up a couple of routes, and took some of the customers away from the other two drivers, and then they gave me a brand new milk truck, 1946 Divco, so I delivered milk there for about 4 or 5 years, and then before I went to Town and Country Dairy. I got my own route there started. But this was the location of the Fergus Falls Crop Creamery.
Okay.
Here.
I had been writing to a fellow, LeRoy and MaryAnn from Fergus Falls, while he was in the service. And he got discharged in October of 1946, and he drove up to Oslo to see me. I was living in Warren at the time, working at the bank in Warren, Minnesota. And so he came up and picked me up at the bank, and then we went to my folks who lived on the farm about 15 miles from there, and we spent the weekend there. And then Monday morning, he took me back to the bank, or to my apartment where I was living, and so I could go to work at the bank, and then he took off for home, went back home. Well, then in November, I took a train from Warren to Fergus Falls so I could meet his family. And that was on a Friday night. This is the train station that I arrived at when I came to Fergus the first time. And LeRoy was here to meet me at the train station when I came in. So, and then we went to his folks, and I stayed with them with his family at their house then until Monday morning. I took the train back.
This house here at 412 West Cherry in Fergus Falls on April 21st, 1947, on my 21st birthday. And I made the contact on the milk route because I was delivering milk for the Fergus Crop Creamery, 65 cents an hour. And I made the contact on the milk route. The people that were living here, Mr. and Mrs. Ecker, were going into a nursing home, and they wanted to sell the house. So I offered them $5,000 for the house, and they wanted more. So it was about a month later that I got the house for the price that I quoted, and we lived in here about 7.5, 8 years. We had 3 children who were born here: Bruce, Nancy, and Diane.
Okay, my first job after we got married was working at the Fergus Falls National Bank, which is now Victor Lundin building. It's that building that Victor Lundin is in. And so I got a job as a bookkeeper there. And so I was a bookkeeper for a couple of years, and then I got moved up, and I finally got to be a teller at the window. And about the time I had become a teller, I got pregnant with our first baby after we'd been married a couple of years. And then Bruce was born, so I quit at the bank.
In 1952, then I switched from Fergus Crop Creamery to the Town and Country Dairy. And then this is a new truck that I purchased and paid for by penny for every quart of milk I sold. I made the payment to Muggs Townshend, and got it paid for in less than 2 years. Okay, this is a house here on 713 West Laurel, and we're right across the street from the McKinley School. And we had 3 children at that time. Bruce was going into kindergarten, and Nancy was 2 years behind Bruce, and I think I think Bruce was about 5 years old or so, and Nancy was 3, and then Diane was about 6 months old probably when we moved over here, and it was in the summer, wasn't it? About June of 1954. Okay, and we lived here about 22 years. So we lived here 22 years, and we didn't have a garage at all. And so this is the post that was here, and here's the post here, and we had plug-ins right here, plug-in for the car, and a plug-in for the milk truck, and so the cars and the milk truck sat outside all winter long, and year-round, no garage. I don't know how we ever got along without one, but we made it. And when I first looked at this house, they showed it to me on the milk route. I was delivering milk to the Knutsons here that lived here, and he was going to be moving to Richardton, North Dakota. They bought a place out there, and so they needed to, and he was already working out there at the bank in Richardton, North Dakota. And so I first looked at the house, and they wanted more than what I was able to pay, and so I drew them down, and they refused. But then they took me up on the offer later, and so we moved over here. Yeah, we had the 3 children when we moved here, and then 3 more were born here. It was close for the kids to go right across the street to grade school, but they couldn't walk across the street here. They had to go down to the corner of First Avenue, because one of the teachers saw Brian jaywalking across the street, and she really called him over the carpet. She said, "Young man," she says, "you walk down to the corner." And I still remember that, because he was afraid that he was going to get her for a teacher, but he never did, or she forgot all about it by the time. So but we had some nice homes. This is the home we bought at 711 West Elcott in 1976, and we had the 6 children then, and so this is where we lived for about 20 years, from 76 to 96. It's right across the street from the Bethel Lutheran Church, right here in Fergus Falls, and there was a parsonage right across the street, which they moved away, and they built a real big addition onto the church here. It's a beautiful church, and Hillcrest Lutheran Academy has been here for many years, and that used to be a Park Region college, and Lutheran Brethren Schools bought it, and so it's a high school now. We purchased this property here in June of 1996. They were going to build some condos here, and they were tearing up the land here, and they had just put the footings in here, and they took us to Detroit Lakes and showed us what they had built up there, a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condos, just like this here, and was already furnished and everything up there. And so we liked what we saw, and we had already sold our place up there in West Elcott, and so it looked like just what we needed. Everything on one floor, 2 bedrooms and 2 bath, everything one floor, no steps, no basement or anything like that. So it's just been worked out just fine for us for the last 16, 17 years. So, and we looked through the abstract and found out that my grandparents, John and Maria and Hannah Maria, had bought this property in 1913, and they already had 14 kids. They moved from Dawson, Minnesota, and they moved into here, and they were living here in a small dairy farm here, small farm. It had some cows. They had some cows and some cattle and some pigs and some chickens, and there's all this land here was part of that small farm, and I found out later that that's where they had purchased here. And but this has been just right for us all these years here now. So, all right, there's talking about downtown Fergus Falls here now. Yeah, it's interesting to note that there's only 4 places that I can think of that are still there that were here 50 years ago, and that's the City Cafe and Bakery, which is right downtown Main Street on Lincoln Avenue, and it's a place where I used to go in there a lot for coffee and rolls and Bismarcks and whatnot, and it's still there today under different management, of course, but it's still called the City Cafe and Bakery, and I still go in there for coffee and donuts and so forth. And then there's downtown. It's Victor Lundin and Company. It was a bank building that they had bought right next door to them, but they still they own that part now too, and the bank building, and also where they had the Victor Lundin and Company right next door. So they've enlarged their business considerably. And then the Fergus Theater is still there, and it's now called, I guess it's still called the Fergus Theater, but they have a lot of doings there in the summertime and wintertime, and a lot going on there. And then also Mock Jewelries is still there after all these years, and their father is still living, but he's retired now. It was a big change to going from glass bottles to cartons, and then to the plastic jugs. They had started with the milk and gallon jugs, so that was quite a change. So a total of 40 years that I delivered milk in Fergus Falls, home delivery, and I ended up with 4 of those Divco milk trucks. 2 were on the route every day, and we had 2 spares because they were getting old, and we had a lot of repairs that would breakdowns and stuff, so we had 2 spares. And so I ended up with 1,200 milk customers when I finally made an agreement with Brian to take over the dairy situation. So, well, in 1986. Yeah. Okay, in our 65 years of marriage, it's been a good marriage, and we're still together after 65 years, and we have 6 children, 3 boys and 3 girls, and 15 grandkids and 15 great-grandkids. I counted them up one day, and that's a total of 48 with everybody, and I started it all too, and I had a little help from my wife, MaryAnn.